Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something absolutely fundamental. We're looking at the bedrock rules for what to do when your car, well, when everything goes sideways. Our mission is to cut right through the panic and focus on the most critical, immediate actions you need to take in those really high-stress driving moments.
Exactly.
I mean, we've all been there. You hear that siren wailing behind you, or you hit a patch of black ice you just didn't see, or a deer decides to, just take a stroll across the highway right in front of you. And in those moments, your driving instinct kicks in.
And that instinct is often, frankly, the worst possible guide,
It's a liar. It tells you to slam the brakes or yank the wheel.
which are the very things that can turn a minor problem into a really major accident.
Okay, so that's the key.
That is the key context. These safety guides, they're written specifically to fight that human instinct. They aren't suggestions. They're immediate commands.
Right.
Commands that help you maintain control right when you feel like you're losing it. We've broken these down into 3 key areas for now. First, dealing with emergency vehicles. Then, the really counterintuitive rules for correcting a skid.
Okay.
And finally, what to do when wildlife suddenly appears on the road.
Okay, let's unpack this. We should start with the most common one, the one that involves, law enforcement, an ambulance,
Yeah.
an approaching emergency vehicle. You hear the sirens. What is your immediate, non-negotiable obligation?
It's all built around 2 things: maximum clearance and absolute predictability.
Predictability, I like that.
You must pull over to the right side of the road, and you must stop
Yeah.
completely until that vehicle has passed.
See, stopping completely is the part that I think surprises people. Why isn't just slowing way down enough? If I'm creeping along at, say, 15 miles per hour, isn't that good enough for them to get by safely?
You'd think so, but if we look at the core principle, it's that any movement at all introduces an unknown variable. That emergency driver is making calculations based on the assumption that traffic will clear and then freeze. If you're still rolling, even slowly, you might obscure their path, or they might misjudge your speed. Stopping completely just eliminates your vehicle as a moving variable.
So you become a fixed object.
Exactly, a fixed object. And pulling over to the right just maximizes the usable lane space for them and ensures you're not blocking some side street or access point they might need.
That makes perfect sense. The goal is just to make yourself the safest, least problematic obstacle you can be.
Right.
But let's get into the interesting exception the guidance points out. The rule changes a bit when you're on a divided highway. This is where I think a lot of drivers get confused.
And that's where the infrastructure itself really dictates the response. If you're on a divided highway, the instruction changes. It's modified to slow down and move away if safe. You aren't necessarily expected to make that hard stop on the far right shoulder.
Okay, so why does just having a median in the middle change the rule from stop to slow and move away?
Because on a big multi-lane highway, your primary safety risk actually shifts.
How so?
Well, think about it. If you're in the far left lane doing 70 and you try to slam on the brakes and cut across 3 lanes of traffic to get to the right shoulder,
You're creating a new accident.
you're creating a massive hazard for everyone else. The safety priority changes from freeze immediately to create distance without causing a collision.
So it's about the flow of traffic.
It's about the flow. If the emergency vehicle is in a lane that's physically separated from you by a barrier, the imperative is to slow down first and foremost, but then create a safe buffer. Maybe move 1 lane over, away from the situation, but only if traffic allows.
So the big takeaway is pull right and stop is the law on a standard road. But on a high-speed divided road, maintaining the flow of traffic while creating distance can sometimes take priority.
Precisely. It's a proportional response. And the most important words in that rule are if safe. Never, ever make a dangerous lane change just to follow that rule.
That's a great transition, actually. We talked about how external forces, like sirens, require discipline. Let's look inward now, to when the danger comes from losing control of the car itself. Skidding.
Mm-hmm.
This is the moment where instinct is, I think, most likely to betray you. It just screams, brake, brake hard.
And that is the absolute worst thing you can do. When your vehicle starts to skid, you've essentially lost the relationship between how fast your wheels are turning and how fast you're actually moving over the ground. You've lost traction.
I know the guidance gives us a very specific set of steps, and the timing is everything. So before we even talk about the steering wheel, what is the absolute critical first thing the driver must do?
Take your foot off the accelerator. That is directive number 1.
Okay, so why is that so foundational? Why remove power Don't you need some momentum to get out of it?
Well, if we look at the physics, just simply keeping your foot on the gas, or God forbid hitting the brake, it just maximizes the instability.
It makes it worse.
It makes it much worse. When you're accelerating during a slide, you're just forcing the wheels to spin uselessly. They can't regain their grip. By removing power, you immediately allow the natural forces on the car drag, friction, to slow the wheels down to the speed the vehicle is actually moving.
Oh, I see. You're trying to get them to match again.
You're letting them match. That moment of equalization is the only chance the tires have to bite back into the road.
That's a really sharp takeaway.
Yeah.
Keeping the gas down just maximizes the skid.
Yeah.
Okay, so once we've done that, lifted our foot, we get to the move that confuses everyone. What do we do with the steering wheel?
You must steer in the direction of the skid.
Right. That phrase sounds so simple on paper, but in the moment, it feels impossible. Your car's back end is sliding out to the right, and every survival instinct is screaming to turn left to fight it.
And you have to fight that instinct. You have to understand you're not trying to steer away from the danger. You're trying to align the front of the car with the direction the rear is already going.
Okay, can you break that down?
Imagine the car is kind of crabbing, moving a bit sideways. If the rear end of your car whips out to the left, you need to turn your steering wheel slightly to the left. You're guiding the front wheels to catch up with the back wheels.
So you're trying to straighten the car out relative to its direction of travel.
Exactly. You're aiming to square the car up. And then, and this is critical, the second you feel that slide start to neutralize, you have to immediately start steering back toward the center. It's called countersteering.
Ah, so if you hold it too long.
If you hold that steer into the skid angle for even a second too long after the car straightens out, you will absolutely initiate a brand new and probably worse skid in the opposite direction.
So it's not one big turn, it's a quick dynamic correction just to get back to that straight line path.
Precisely. You're using the wheel to neutralize the angle of the vehicle, not trying to violently change your position on the road. It's something you really have to practice, in a safe, empty parking lot in winter, because you can't rely on thinking it through in the 2 seconds you have on the ice.
That is incredibly high value knowledge. So it boils down to off the gas, steer to a line, and be ready to countersteer immediately.
That's the sequence.
All right, let's move to our third high-stress event. This one combines that element of surprise with a really tough ethical dilemma. The sudden appearance of wildlife, especially large animals like deer.
Right.
The immediate emotional reaction is almost always to swerve, to save the animal.
And this is where the risk assessment has to shift entirely to prioritizing human safety above everything else. The guidance gives 2 primary directives here. 1, slow down immediately, and 2, do not swerve sharply.
That second one is the hard one.
It is. What's so fascinating is that the sources are implicitly stating that a controlled impact, if it's truly unavoidable, is statistically safer than a catastrophic loss of control.
It's so hard to execute that in the moment, to choose the vehicle's path over avoiding the impact. But why is that do not swerve sharply rule so absolute?
If you look at the bigger picture, at accident severity, swerving introduces risks that are just exponentially more dangerous than hitting the animal itself.
Like what?
When you yank the wheel at speed, you risk rolling the vehicle. You risk skidding out into oncoming traffic. You risk leaving the road entirely and hitting something that doesn't move, like a tree or a bridge abutment.
And those are much worse outcomes.
Those risks, a rollover, a head-on collision, hitting a fixed object, they carry a significantly higher fatality rate than striking a large animal while you're still maintaining a straight path.
So protecting the stability of the vehicle's path is everything. Slowing down buys you time, but if the impact is coming, the priority has to be maintaining that straight line.
Absolutely. Think of it as a hierarchy of threats. The immediate threat is the animal. The catastrophic threat is losing control of your vehicle. By hitting the brakes hard and holding your line, you maximize your reaction time and you minimize the force of the impact, even if that impact still happens.
If you swerve, you might miss the deer.
But you might trade a dented fender for a serious rollover accident, especially at highway speeds.
And animals are unpredictable. A deer doesn't just stand still. A sharp swerve could just lead you right into the path it was about to jump into anyway.
That is another key point. Your aggressive maneuver, which is based on their initial position, is likely to put you right in their path of escape. The rule just simplifies the driver's job. Slow down, hold the line, and protect your passengers and other drivers first.
This has been an incredibly focused review of these moments where panic is the real enemy. Let's do a quick recap of the core knowledge we've covered.
Good idea.
For emergency vehicles, the rule is all about predictability. Pull over to the right and stop.
Yeah.
But remember that key exception for divided highways? Slow down and move away, but only if it's safe.
Hmm.
For skidding, the sequence is non-negotiable. It's about regaining traction. Foot off the gas first. Then, and only then, steer into the direction of the skid and be ready to correct back immediately. And finally, when wildlife appears, your best defense is slowing down. But stability is paramount. Never swerve sharply at speed.
So what does this all mean for you as the driver? These simple instructions, they are the absolute foundation of defensive driving because they all require you to consciously override your instinct.
Yes.
If you rely on your gut feeling, you will brake during a skid and you will swerve around an obstacle. Every single piece of advice we reviewed today, stopping for a siren, lifting off the gas in a slide, holding your line for an animal, it requires pre-rehearsal. It requires mental discipline.
You can't just hope you'll remember it in the moment.
You can't. You need to absorb this knowledge so that the right response becomes automatic.
That distinction between instinct and discipline really is the key, isn't it? Thank you for diving deep into this vital safety review with us. We want to leave you with this final provocative thought. The guidance we've talked about only covers the physical actions, the what to do. So the question is, how can you practice the mental discipline, the real muscle memory, to execute these simple, often counterintuitive instructions the moment panic sets in, before you even have time to think? This is the kind of knowledge that needs to be absorbed, mentally practiced in your head every time you get behind the wheel, turning rules into reflexes. Until next time, stay safe out there.